Okay. Hi, guys. It's Mark Zicree, Mr. Sci-Fi. So, I think, sorry that we're 5 minutes late, or six. YouTube was throwing new things at me, and I didn't know what to do, the technology ran me down. So, but here we are, live stream. Now, I don't know if anybody is here with me. I could just be talking to myself, which I probably am, but we're going to talk about science fiction. We're going to talk about the Kickstarter campaign. We're going to talk about anything you guys want to talk about, and I can answer all sorts of questions. I'm happy to talk about random thoughts about science fiction, fantasy, horror, anything anyone wants to discuss. We're going to be doing these live streams every Wednesday through the campaign and perhaps beyond. So we'll see how it goes. So far, it seems to be a little bit hinky, but that's okay. Don't mind it. All right, so let's just talk about what's going on right now. We are building the two-story set, Spaceship Bridge. There's Mark Lungo. Hello, Mark. Good to see you too, or see your name in print. I'm just gonna talk for a while and answer questions and do whatever I do, and we'll see how it all goes. But we're shooting Great Solar War. We're shooting Elaine's film. Just kind of doing what we do, going to Comic-Con, going to Star Trek Las Vegas, going where they point me, and we shall see. But it's a fascinating time, God knows, and there's some really great stuff coming up very soon. So I don't know if you have questions, Mark. I can see your little feed there. So if you wanted to ask anything, feel free to. Otherwise, I can just natter for a little while and talk about things that are of interest to me. It's We have a whole bunch of spacesuits now. Oh, this is a dog toy, by the way, not a heavy lunch. So there you go. Look at that. There we go. But we we are doing the campaign to test a new crowdfunding campaign team. If it succeeds, we'll start having campaigns for all of our various projects and really ramping up. I was speaking to my friend Rockney O'Bannon the other day, who created Farscape, and of course we're doing Sweet Haven together, and he's very excited about all this stuff. So everything is up and running right now, which is great. And we were just talking to the VFX team, and Ian McCaig, of course, is part of that, and he introduced me to a new, very talented VFX artist named Justin. And so there's just all sorts of cool stuff going on. And I got the Falling Skies prosthetic again to see if we might be able to retool it, reutilize it. We'll see. We learn by doing. We learn as we go. And so it's funny. I was just looking up the works of Samuel R. Delany, and of course, Delany was one of my teachers at Clarion. So I'm going to send him some of my books to sign because I haven't really seen him in many years. But I think that would be wonderful, and it just keeps going. I mean, Elaine is. We're finishing the production draft of Great Solar War, and it's reading really well, and it has a lot of stuff happening in a lot of locations, and it's going to be very fun, and people are welcome to be part of that, to wear a spacesuit, be on camera, all of that. It's going to be neat. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff we've never done before on Space Command. There's a lot of sequences and with zero G and all sorts of stuff, and it just keeps going. So so this is my working draft of Great Solar War, and here's the script, and then this was, of course, a variant of my little adaptation of the cover of Spaceman magazine, 1965 yearbook, with this great cover by Wally Wood. Because when I was a kid, I looked at that and said, that's the good life. And then I just put Great Solar War on it, and I'm using it as my work in progress item, my work in progress draft. And it's going to be an amazing thing. Now, also, by the way, when I write, I print out the images of my characters, the actors who are playing the roles, so that I can look at them when I'm writing and hear them in my head and all of that. So it's a varied and extremely good cast. And Ethan McDowell will have a beard and mustache, and it's going to be really, really, really cool. So, um, let's see. Oh, hi, Gail. If there's any more Star Trek movies coming out, there will be. I mean, now that I guess Skydance is acquiring Paramount, they're big science fiction geeks, and so I'm sure they'll get it going again. Whether it'll be JJ's version, whether it'll be the Chris Pine Star Trek, I don't know. But Star Trek is like Tarzan or Sherlock Holmes or any of these things. Every few years, you get another iteration, and some work and some don't. But I'm glad that they've proven so robust. And the funny thing is, that as the older fandom dies out, it starts to switch over from, okay, here's the fans of the original Star Trek, and then you get the kids who grew up on Star Trek: The Next Generation, and so forth. So and there'll be a generation where they only grew up on Discovery and Strange New Worlds. So everyone has their own period and their own shows that they love or hate, and all we can do is write things that entertain us. And fortunately, I've always had a similar aesthetic to my audience, so that's worked really well. Mark says, when you were writing toy and game-based cartoons like He-Man, Pole Position, and Centurions, how did you deal with interference from the companies that owned the concepts? Well, there really wasn't interference. I mean, they would basically say, okay, these are the um, characters. This is the situation of the show. For instance, on Pole Position, I think Michael Reeves and I wrote all of them, and there was no interference at all from the toy company. And same with He-Man. I mean, when I was writing He-Man, it was basically come up with a story, make it work. They might say, oh, we're introducing some new characters, and here's the figurines, and the Man of War or whomever. But I wasn't on He-Man. I was on He-Man at the very beginning, the first season, so I really didn't have to undergo any hassles from all of that. I know Michael Reeves, when he was writing My Little Pony, there were like 12 ponies that he had to utilize, and then they came up with a whole nother list of 12 ponies, and the old ones were out and the new ones were in, and he had to retool all of it for that. But I never had that kind of a nightmare. So it was I just dealt with the studio and the network, the whoever was our liaison, the story editor or the producer we were dealing with, and our network executive, and it wasn't odious at all. It wasn't we were writing so quickly and had great freedom in terms of the specifics of what we could do. So we knew the limitations. So obviously we weren't going to write a nude scene or someone's eye being poked out. So working within the parameters of what we needed to do, we could do what we wanted to do. Let's see. Did your actress who played Sulu's daughter get back for Space Command? Yes, Christina Moses. During the pandemic, we did a bonus episode called Ripple Effect, which is on Mr. Sci-Fi. You can watch it. And Christina Moses plays Armin Shimmerman's daughter, and her great grandfather is Robert Picardo in our time frame. And but she has a major role not in Great Solar War, but in the episode after that, Empire. And but basically, what we're doing is we're creating an ensemble of actors that will appear in all of these different TV shows and movies. So Doug Jones is in Space Command, and also in Elaine's film Voiceless Roar, as is Armin Shimmerman. We mix and match. Aaron Gaffey, who's in Space Command, is also the lead in Lane's film. Ethan McDowell is going to be reading for Fugitive Space. We'll see if it clicks. I think it will. He's a very talented actor, and so then we just kind of do whatever we want to do. Now, Gail, you mentioned you're from New Zealand. One of the actresses I want to cast is the actress who played Megan, and she's based. This is her, Amy, there, if you can see her. And so she's in New Zealand. So if you go to a convention and meet her, she say, "Oh, you should be in Space Command," because we're trying to make that deal come together. And and I would let her use her own accent. I wouldn't, I think it's fun to have a variety of accents and backstories. She in Great Solar War, her character plays the granddaughter, the brilliant granddaughter of Billy Mummy's character, Greg Massey. Let's see. You mentioned Farscape earlier, and I know a lot of the cast later on was on Stargate, so maybe you would have some news. You mean new? Well, I mean, obviously we're working with actors from all these different shows. But I never watched Farscape. I saw a little bit of it, but not much. I mean, Gigi Edgley. We've been talking about her being in Space Command forever. And the only reason I haven't put her in Space Command yet is just because I haven't found a role strong enough for her. I mean, it is. She hasn't been rejecting Space Command. I've been rejecting Space Command because I don't just want. These are phenomenal actors, and if I'm gonna cast them, I want them to have something really, really cool to do. And you can see how we utilized Bill Mummy and Bob Picardo and Doug Jones to great effect. And so with Gigi Edgley, I want to make sure it's something that really is gonna work strongly. And let's see. I can't help but remember your Bionic Six story. I don't remember my Bionic Six story, Mark. It's bottom of the ninth planet. I remember that's one I wrote, baseball one on an alien planet. But and by the time we got to Bionic Six, I was getting pretty burnt out on animation. I mean, it was harder and harder and harder for me to feel engaged. And I would still bring my A game as best I could, but I so wanted to jump over to live action, which I succeeded in doing. I mean, my one regret is that when Michael Reeves was story editing Batman the Animated Series, I turned him down. He wanted me to write one. And I was out of animation by then. And so I said no. I think I was producing Sliders. But in retrospect, I would have liked to have written for that. But let's see. I wish I could see more of the Star Trek movies, but we don't get everything here in New Zealand. Yeah, well, Space Command you should be able to get. If we can get more people to rent the movie on Amazon Prime and give us a positive review, if we can get over 100 positive reviews in like a month, that would get us worldwide distribution on it. So anyone who hasn't rented it and watched it and given us 5 stars, please do. If you want me to throw you the money for the rental or throw in an extra $10, I'd be happy to, because I very much want people to be able to see this and enjoy it around the world. Let's see. Wish there were more sci-fi shows that get past the militarism and government-driven missions. Love your focus on generational, heartfelt human arcs. Thanks. The Great Solar War is a big anti-war piece, and it basically talks about the enemy isn't the person on the other side of the conflict. The enemy is the notion of war, the notion that it's acceptable to kill other people. And so I mean, there's a great quote from Gene Roddenberry. Let me see if I can get it here, which Great Solar War begins with, and the quote is: "The strength of a civilization is not measured by its ability to fight wars, but rather by its ability to prevent them." And that's from Gene Roddenberry. So pretty cool. But Doug Jones is in Great Solar War, Ethan McDowell, Brian McClure, Victor Manso, all of our regular wonderful characters, plus a guy uh, from Big Lebowski who played one of the kidnappers, the tall, thin one, going, "Oh, fuck you, Lebowski! I'll fuck you up the ass." It's that guy. He's wonderful. His name is Torsten Voges. He's a German. That's him, that long-faced guy up top. And there's a lot of other really cool people in Great Solar War. Let's see. Sliders looks great, very unique. Thanks a lot. Particularly season 4, which I was the producer writer on. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun because it was a very small writing staff. It was me and Chris Black and Bill Dial, and we were doing 22 episodes, and 11 would be freelance. So we were taking pictures every day in the afternoon, but we knew that those scripts would probably have to be page 1 rewrites by us because we were living Sliders day in and day out. So a freelancer coming in could not possibly know all the stuff we knew. So, so there's a lot of episodes of Sliders that I wrote that my name is not on because a freelancer, that might be his only sale that year. I didn't want to steal part of his residuals. It didn't seem right to me. So, but I had a great time on that show. It was a lot of fun. Let's see. The story where you were. Oh yes, yeah, Mark Lungo. Yeah, I wrote a script for Bionic 6 about this garbage dump that comes alive and starts menacing our heroes. And my original title for it was "This Garbage is Revolting," which was sort of a commentary on like the show. And they changed the title to Junk Pile. But again, I mean, I always took responsibility for the work I was doing. It's like I would try and make it entertaining. I would try to make it amusing. I would try. Someone once asked if I wrote for the child in the audience, and I said no, I write for the child in me, and that's true to this day. I mean, I want it to entertain me. I want to be excited by what I'm coming up with, so that my audience will be. And so far, so good. By the way, to let everyone know, we're doing a Kickstarter campaign. Please go to it for Space Command: Great Solar War. We really want to have the money to really shoot a lot, cover a lot of ground. We are shooting August 27th on our 2-story spaceship command deck. It's going to be an amazing, amazing day, and it's going to have tons of Space Command personnel. And so if you want to go and play a role, or wear a spacesuit or any of that stuff, that's the day to do it. And you can get that kind of perk on the Kickstarter campaign. And also, we're still selling Space Command shares for $7,500 each. And we're now selling shares in the Showrunners Network, which is a slate of 6 series I'm creating with the creators of Farscape and The Expanse and so forth. And those shares are $105,000 each, but you'll get my producer's net profits in 6 shows. So if one of them hits big, you will be living the life of Riley. Let's see. It sounds like a lot of work on sliders. Why was your staff so small? I like small writing staffs. Because when you've got like 20 people in a room, nobody's going to get anywhere. Nothing's going to get accomplished. And when you have a staff that large, about half of them can't write the show. They don't have the voice of the show, and can't write a producible script. When it's small, it has to be a very muscular staff, and by that I mean they have to be really solid pros. If they need to write a script in a week, they can do it. If they need to write a script in a weekend, they can do it. And the great part of it was that Chris Black, very solid writer. He's now a showrunner. He was a showrunner on the recent Godzilla TV show Monarch, and very hardworking, very good set of skills. And then Bill Dial, who was a writer on WKRP in Cincinnati, he was a huge history buff, and so very different from Chris and I, who were sci-fi geeks. He knew a lot about history, and so with Sliders, because of all these parallel Earths, we could come up with a lot of riffs on society and history and all of that. And so that was really, really fun, and not it didn't feel like uh, a huge amount of work. It felt like an amount of work that we could handle. Plus, I was also coming up with Far Beyond the Stars that year. I was working on the Magic Time novels. I was I was outlining all the episodes of Animorphs and writing several scripts for that show all at the same time. So it was a busy year. So let's see. When I feel stressed out, I watch shows from earlier decades. The pace was slower, and you had time to think. Yes, I agree, and that's why Space Command, although it's a show very much about now, I I don't need it to be frenetic. I don't need the shooting style to be, I mean, it's so funny. I just rewatched Ron Moore's Battlestar Galactica, which I like very much, but they had it all kind of like this handheld thing, and there's points where you're saying, Jesus Christ, buy a tripod. It's like, and that was a stylistic choice, but come on, it gets to be tired. Uh, let's see. I don't think I said that Bill Dial worked on Star Trek Voyager and DS9. If he did, I'm not aware of it. He may have, but my only awareness was he was on WKRP in Cincinnati, and then came on to Sliders. But he was a friend of Michael Pillar's, so anything's possible. Mark Longo asks, let's see what blah 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 blah. Let's see, I've fallen behind. Let's see, you met fans of the Mavericks. They named their latest release Moon and Stars. That's fun. I was watching Murder, She Wrote before coming here. I am happier watching older stuff. Yeah, I mean, I like the older shows because they're generally structured better, written better. The characters are better. They know where they're going often, or at least I hate the fact that with so many modern shows, they're sort of half baked. So you'll watch a show and it'll just get worse and worse and worse as it goes on, and it might have great actors, it might have a great initial premise, but then you say, well, Jesus, why did I just watch 8 hours or 16 hours of that thing? It was a waste of time, and I feel that with many shows nowadays. And whereas watching Battlestar Galactica again, I thought it was terrific, just simply terrific. It's a great show, and I may disagree with certain choices, aesthetic choices they made, but I respect the choices they made. So it was a brilliantly talented group of people making that show. Let's see, are there any aspects and/or characters in Space Command that you think need further development? Yeah, sure, of course. I mean, I learn about these characters as I go, and I view everyone as my collaborator. So, if Doug Jones has an idea or Bob Picardo has an idea, I'll listen to it, and more often than not, I'll change the script or change what we're doing. Let's see. But in terms of further development, I think of it more of as evolution of storyline and character, and our ability to do things. Sometimes we'll try something and it's like, that's we did our best, but we can do better. And we don't have $100 million, and so we have to be very, very, very clever and inventive. But it's worth it, certainly. Let's see. Did you see the show Reboot with Paul Reiser? It's about a TV show from the 2000s trying to reboot with older classic writers and Gen Zs and the difficulty of writers from these days. I heard about it. I don't think I saw it. Paul Reiser, of course, is one of my favorite actors, particularly from Aliens. That's one of the best villains ever written by anybody, ever performed by anybody. It's always odd to me to see him as an old guy now because he was such a young guy in that movie. But yeah, I mean, but again, I think there's a reason. I've talked about this before. Why shows now are less good than shows perhaps from other decades. And here's the reason. The guys who made TV shows in the 50s and 60s into the 70s, they didn't grow up watching TV. Yeah, if anything, they grew up listening to radio and going to movies, but mainly they lived lives. And particularly with that generation of Rod Serling and Gene Roddenberry, they fought in World War II. I mean, Roddenberry was a bomber pilot and Serling was a paratrooper fighting in the Philippines, hand-to-hand combat. So they were people who had lived, who had experienced life and death and loss, and they were of a deeper soul. Whereas people who've just grown up watching TV shows and movies and not going out into the world, it's very easy for them to write very, very shallowly. And more often than not, writers don't do the research they should do. They think they can just kind of gloss over it and imagine it and it'll be fine. That's not the case. And often what they think of as an homage is actually just ripping off something better than what they're doing. So I think it's incumbent on all of us to do our best job and to work hard and bring our A game to everything. So, I've said this before, of course. Let's see. Too bad Stephen King wrote 1963 to go back in time to get good hamburgers and save a president instead of check sci-fi scripts. Yes, that's true. You might enjoy Reboot as the older writers have all their own stories and the kids starting out don't have any life experience. It was enjoyable. Yeah, that's my point. And, it's but again, I don't mean to shit on younger people, because I know plenty of younger people who are very passionate, very engaged, doing wonderful things. I don't think that any generation has the patent on doing work of quality, and so I think you need to get good mentoring. I think, I've seen people like be on a show, it's their first show ever, and they learn very bad lessons of how to behave and what to do, and that kind of has a ripple effect down the years. But on the other hand, if you seek out the people who are doing the work that you love, and they turn out to be really decent people, like my mentors, as everyone knows, I think Ray Bradbury and Guillermo del Toro's been a friend and collaborator, and Harlan Ellison and Ted Sturgeon and all these great science fiction writers of yore. These were astonishingly brilliant and unique personalities and writers and talents, and that's who I learned from. And so I'm the beneficiary of their kindness. So let's see. Blah 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 blah. Mark Long says, "What do you think of series that feature anti-heroes such as The Sopranos, Breaking Bad, and The Boys?" I'm glad that we're coming out of that period. It's a shame that Real Story, which was the project we did with Armin Shimmerman, the pilot presentation we did with Armin and Tom Fontana, didn't get picked up, because we were just before that anti-hero phase, and we wanted Armin to play a crusading journalist who was very, very troubled, and we didn't sell it. We could always go back to it and do it now. If you want to see the pilot presentation that Elaine and I bankrolled and produced and wrote, it's now on Mr. Sci-Fi, and it stars Armin Shimmerman, and it was really fun to revisit it. It was much better than I thought it was when we did it, and that's good. That's always good. It's better that it's better than you remember than it's worse than you remember. In terms of those shows, The Sopranos, of course, is a great show. Breaking Bad's a great show. Better Call Saul is a brilliant show. I think it's one of the best shows ever done by anybody. Uh, the Boys I've had trouble with because it's so dark and so creepy, and I just get tired of it. It wears me out. So I've watched it, but I haven't watched all of it. And I think anti-heroes. See, the trick with anti-heroes is you have to be careful how you write them. If they're totally loathsome and don't care about anyone or anything, you're not going to be engaged by them. You'll just be put off by them. In Breaking Bad, Walter White is a terrible person and gets increasingly worse, but he cares about Jesse. He ultimately sacrifices his own life for Jesse. Cover your ears, that's a spoiler. He loves his family, even though he's very narcissistic. And of course in Better Call Saul, my gosh, the ending of that, I won't spoil the ending of that, but it's one of the great endings of any TV series ever. And there's a skill to writing anti-heroes where they also have to care. Also, another trick with anti-heroes is the person who cares the most passionately about something is usually the character you're going to kind of root for, because they're actually anyone who's blasé or apathetic or cynical, that's not going to work. But if they care passionately about what they're going after, you're going to be engaged by that. So let's see. Ever consider working on a comedy? Now, I've written comedies. I've written a significant amount of comedies. I've done 4 pilots about my family for 3 networks. I have a very unusual family, and both my parents were married 4 times. I could tell you stories, but so I have written comedies on assignment, and I can, I'm told that I'm a funny guy. I know I'm a funny guy. I've got a pretty sharp sense of humor, and so the path Michael Reeves brought me into animation, and then I broke out and got into science fiction live action, which was where I wanted to be. But even when I was writing for cartoons, there were 2 kinds of cartoons. There were superhero cartoons that included things like Black Star and He-Man and so forth, and then there were funny animal cartoons, which included Smurfs. And in all of those, you had to be able to tell jokes, like whether it was real Ghostbusters. You had to have a good sense of humor, and so I was able to exercise that in those. And then when I wrote those pilots and various other pilots I've written, humor was a big aspect. And then Space Command, there's some really good jokes, particularly the joke about Detroit that appears in Redemption. My hair is out of hand here. But so yeah, so I've done comedy. I like comedy, and of course, some of my favorite movies are comedies. Like Bringing Up Baby is a spectacular film. Let's see. I wanted to love The Boys, but I hated every one of the characters and struggled to keep watching. Yes. Also, your problem with the new Battlestar Galactica. The Battlestar Galactica, I was able to see like the hearts of these characters. I felt it was a little bit too dark for my taste, but when you watch it I watched all of it in close succession recently. I'd seen all of it originally when it ran. When you watch it all together as one creative lump, you see what the intent is. They knew where they were going, or seemed to know where they were going from the very beginning, and they paid it off. And it's there's a conversation I want to have with Ron Moore. I'm very interested in his religious beliefs and his spirituality, and because they definitely have 2 different religious belief systems coming head to head, and they have one of them be the real one, the one that is true, and the other one is not. And I'd like to talk to him about that. Let's see. I liked it at first, but came to hate them all. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, all of us are going to have different shows we like, different shows we hate. I'm, but I need to care about the characters if I'm going to stick with a show, and I need to feel that they're not throwing the characters away, the consistency of character away for plot twists and turns. I think a lot of shows get a little too clever with their plotting, and the characters fall by the wayside. Let's see. Yeah, I will film that interview and post it. If you could go back in time and change one episode of Twilight Zone, what would it be? Wow, that's an interesting question. Well, I'd make Knife Through the Veil, which is the script I wrote for Twilight Zone when they brought it back on CBS. It was a week from production. It was a week from prep, and Douglas Hayes, who did Eye of the Beholder, was going to direct it. And they pulled the plug. The censors pulled the plug on that script. They thought it was too hard-edged. In subsequent years, Katie Sackhoff has said she wanted to do the script. So if we end up doing Rod Serling's After Twilight, which is part of the Showrunners Network, I'll shoot that one, because it's a great script and has a role I wrote for Armin Shimmerman that he could still do. And yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. In terms of the original show, what episodes I might want to redo, it's hard because the great ones are great, and the lesser ones, I mean, the one with Carol Burnett, you really can't make that one good. Most of the ones that aren't good, you couldn't make good because they're bad from the get-go. Come Wander With Me doesn't make any sense at all. Um, but I'm trying to think if there's anywhere it's like, oh, okay, they dropped the ball here, or they dropped the ball there. But current offhand, I can't think of ones where they're like that. I wish they had made the Happy Place, which was Rod Serling's brilliant dystopic commentary on ageism, and that was he wrote that as a pilot script for Twilight Zone and never got made. And we tried to make it years later, and CBS would not let us do it. Discovery Channel wanted to hire me to do a 2-hour special, which would have been 1 hour would have been a documentary on the Twilight Zone, and then the middle part of it would have been that entire hour pilot filmed, and it was a deal. I mean, they were signing on the dotted line, and CBS would not give us the rights, and that is really, really, really a shame. So let's see what else. J.M. Dillard toured 1988 novelization of the War of the Worlds TV pilot and had a funny moment where she thought I'd signed a Harlan Ellison book at Hong Kong Sci-Fi convention. That's funny. Um, I mean, one thing I love about science fiction is you meet such interesting people. Harlan Ellison was unforgettable, of course, and as was Theodore Sturgeon, as was George Clayton Johnson, as was Ray Bradbury. My gosh, and it's I just love how you meet so many people who are one of a kind. Forrest Ackerman, for instance, and I find the younger generation of writers less interesting than the older ones, the ones I grew up with. And I don't know if they're actually less interesting or just less interesting to me. Hard to say, but certainly hanging out with someone like Theodore Sturgeon was a gift, really a gift. And so but I enjoy hanging out with younger writers. When I go to Worldcon or World Fantasy Con, it's a pleasant group of people, and but a little bit I was going to say bookish. The science fiction, the published science fiction, written science fiction, is a little bit inbred now, and so they read each other, but they're not as hip on the world at large. I don't know. I don't know that, and this I could be talking totally out of my ass. I don't. I could be totally wrong about that. Let's see. Could also be studio network platform not letting the new writers do things new. Yes, which is why I'm doing Space Command the way I'm doing it. With Kickstarter campaign, guys, pledge to the Kickstarter campaign. Spread the word. Let your friends know. Let your science fiction clubs know. Let your book clubs know. Let your cashiers at the supermarket know. Because I'll tell you, I'm happy as a clam doing Space Command. It's and all the other projects we have waiting in the wings because we write it, we cast it, we shoot it. I mean, it's like there's one of the things that's terrible, particularly in features, and this is why I didn't work in features. I mean, I've written features on assignment. I can do it. I've got the talent, but so much waste, so much wasted time, so much wasted effort, so many incompetent people in the food chain giving notes. And so with Space Command, I have total control. It's I mean, I can buy a spacesuit. I can buy any number of things that I know I'm gonna use in the show, and so it's pure joy. So let's see. What's the greatest alien invasion movie ever? Whew. For me, the most enjoyable one is Independence Day. I know a lot of people don't like that movie because of the various and sundry, but I like it because it has a black lead character who does not get killed and a Jewish lead character. How many times do you ever see a Jewish lead character in anything, unless it's about the Holocaust? And I just, it's just that's one of my films where I just like enjoy it. In terms of it depends on how you define alien invasion, because of course Alien is maybe the greatest alien related movie ever. um, let's see what else. War of the Worlds, the one with Gene Barry, is terrific. Great fun film. There's a bunch of them, but those some of the ones that I will put on and watch repeatedly. It's very fun. And the thing that's we do live in a blessed age, because I remember as a kid, you couldn't watch things when you wanted to. You watched them when they came on the air, and they were cut to ribbons for commercials sake. And so there are many films that I saw part of, didn't see all of, and you had to watch it when they put it on. So there were, or then there were revival houses that kind of came into being when I was a teenager, where you could finally go and see a movie, but again, once in a blue moon. Whereas now, if I want to watch Aliens or Terminator or anything, I can just put on a Blu-ray or type it in on Amazon Prime and rent it for a few bucks, it's terrific. I really love that. And so speaking of Jewish actors, Saul Rubinek is one of my favorite character actors. You should bring him on something. Yes, I agree 100%. He's very talented, and I'll make a note of that. The other corner of that is platforms archive certain shows and not others. Yes, yes, yes. And I think it was a shame when HBO became Max, and all of a sudden a lot of the shows that had been on HBO were gone, and they're just trying to make a buck, and it's a shame. And also I tend to invest in um, physical media, because when you have a library on your streaming platforms, they can decide on a whim to just wipe that out, and your library's gone. So I just like to have physical media as well. So let's see. Yes, Day the Earth Stood Still, the original one, is a phenomenal film. One of my favorites. Armageddon, I hate because I don't like Michael Bay, and that movie. In other people's hands, that movie with that design aesthetic and that cast would have been great. But for me, it is just super hard to watch. Let's see. Yes. Joseph Weissman, in terms of one more pallbearer, Joseph Weissman he's a really strong actor, and I mean he played Dr. No in James Bond, and just very memorable. Great voice. I bought seasons of shows on digital and they deleted it. You're paying to long-term rent, not buy. Yes, and that's why physical media is so great. And also the other part of physical media that I love is back when for the first 20 years or so of my life, you or 30, you would watch a movie and you say, huh, I wonder what it was like to make that film. I wonder what the actors felt about it. I wonder what the directors felt about it. But you wouldn't know, or maybe you'd find an article or an interview somewhere. But now there's this astonishing film school made up of all these audio commentaries. You can listen to John Carpenter and Kurt Russell talking about the entire movie, through the entire movie, these amazing commentaries. And if Blu-ray dies out, if DVDs die out, what will they continue that tradition? Maybe, but probably not. And I think that would be a great loss, really a great loss. And also partially also because I've done audio commentaries on some of my work, and you do it while it's still fresh in your mind. So just like Mark Lungo had to remind me of that Bionic 6 anecdote, which was very funny, by the way. The Over time you forget stuff, so it's great to have their memories often when they're fresh off doing the job. Let's see. Extra features are wonderful. I'd love to see a rewrite of one more Paul Bear where Weissman's character is redeemed instead of broken. I agree. I think you're right. And there are certain Twilight Zone episodes that are a little bit cruel. Some people find Time Enough at Last cruel because here's this sort of lovable little bookworm character, and he ends up totally screwed when his glasses break. For me, it's so inevitable and so tragic that it works. I'm able to like that episode. What are your thoughts on Godzilla, Battleship Contact, The Arrival, Cloverfield, District 9? Thank you for asking. Godzilla, I didn't like much. It was kind of funky and weird. Like, for instance, they have Godzilla laying eggs in this building with a low ceiling. It's like, how did Godzilla fit in there? I don't know. Not my favorite. Battleship, again, equally, I thought it was weak and just kind of, came and went. Contact, I liked, but it did rip off a gag that they'd done on the pilot of Star Trek: The Next Generation, with the father, with them conjuring up the past and blah blah blah. And I don't think when we find aliens on another planet, they're gonna, assume the form of our deceased parent. The alien planets are not heaven. So, but I still thought there were some very, very interesting things in that film. Cloverfield, it was okay, but again, I'd rather with that movie. The idea was, well, let's have it be like all these people who are on the sidelines during this big alien invasion. I wanted to see the alien invasion, like, I would have liked it to be a more sane film where you were with the army, were with, all the, I wanted to see what was on the periphery of that movie. And I wasn't engaged by the characters at all. District 9, I think, is a great film. I think Neil Blomkamp is a huge talent. Sometimes he hits it out of the park and sometimes not. I thought Chappie was awful. And I liked Elysium for all of its flaws. But I think he's brilliant at visual effects. I think he's brilliant at design. And District 9 is a great film. Hard to watch. because it's got such darkness, but a very, very, very good film. And I actually, the lead in that, we actually had lunch with him a few years ago. Very nice guy, and he's related to Lord Peter Hayne, who's a member of Parliament in England that we worked with on a project. So we'll see where all that leads. Best sci-fi film or show that everyone forgets? Huh. That's interesting. I don't know. I don't know. It's like I think a lot of the great science fiction movies from the '70s, people don't know about, like Soylent Green or the Omega Man. I mean, they're just fun. They're super fun. The Charlton Heston trilogy of Planet of the Apes, Soylent Green, and Omega Man are just so much fun to watch. And so I love that. Um, and in terms of a show, The Prisoner, whoever hasn't seen the Patrick McGowan version of The Prisoner has missed out on one of the greatest TV shows ever made. He was just brilliant, just brilliant. Best canceled show that didn't get a chance to be brilliant. Um, I don't know, because if often if a show gets canceled too quickly, I don't I miss it. I haven't seen it. But so I don't know that answer. Best canceled show. Someone wrote a fixed back for Time Enough at Last, where Meredith's character is found by other survivors, and then he winds up much better than in the original story. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, yes, and it's. I mean, you figure out, even if you can't see, if you wander around long enough, you might find a pair of glasses. But and the science in Twilight Zone is always extremely hinky. So I mean, in reality, he'd be killed by radiation. He wouldn't be able to eat food; it would be contaminated. I mean, there's a million ways he wouldn't last. And then also, they land on asteroids that have Earth's gravity and atmosphere and all that stuff. So c'est la vie. What are my thoughts on Battle Los Angeles? So-so film. Dreamcatcher I didn't like. Alien versus Predators, okay, not bad. Skyline, okayish. And Deep Impact, it's okay, but I much prefer Greenland. I think that's really the asteroid hitting the Earth movie that I prefer. And Don't Look Up, I think, is a terrific film. I mean, I think the two most predictive films are Idiocracy and Don't Look Up, because we'd always assumed that if there were a threat to everyone in the world, we would all come together and science would be treated with respect. And instead, what happened was everyone was pulling apart and tearing apart and all. And so, Don't Look Up, I think, is very, very accurate. I think Idiocracy is where we're headed. So those are, I think, the two most accurate science fiction films ever made. Um, Welcome to Our Village, huh? Please invade carefully. I'll check it. I'll check it. I haven't heard of that. That's fun. That's fun. You've seen so many films. I haven't seen most of these. Yeah, it's you know I still have to finish my history of science fiction film that I've been doing periodically over time. It's it's fun to cover it because there's so many hidden gems, and Things to Come is one of my favorite movies. That's from the '30s, and it has its idiosyncrasies, but I love the tracking the influence from one piece of work to another to another. So in other words, Wells sees Metropolis and doesn't H.G. Wells and doesn't like it, so he does Things to Come as his response to Metropolis, and then and so forth. Star Wars, it's 2001 changes the game. That leads to Star Wars. That leads to Blade Runner and Alien and all of those things. And also there's cross fertilization between media. So for instance, Mobius is doing brilliant work in comics, and then he starts working with Ridley Scott and the guys who did Fifth Element and so forth, and starts influencing science fiction film. Let's see, blah 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 blah. Eddie Robson is the writer. Okay, cool. What are your thoughts on 2012? I like 2012. I think it's a lot of fun. War of the Worlds. I didn't like. I liked the beginning of War of the Worlds, but ultimately, I didn't like the alien design, and I didn't like the main character. Like when his son goes off to fight with the army, I wanted to go continue with the son. I wanted to go see a character who was taking action, and rather than a character who was sort of like a wreck mentally. Let's see, what else. Watchmen, I really like a lot. I like Watchmen a lot. I thought the graphic novel was brilliant, and I thought it was a very respectful adaptation. I thought they did. I think you can fault it a little bit here and there, but I thought it was a very, very strong piece of work. It's the only film by that director that I actually like. Let's see, Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, Transformers. I've only seen the first few Transformer films. As I say, I hate Michael Bay's work, and so there's that. And I mean, my favorite thing about Transformers was the comment on one of the early movies where it's like, why is that hero have such a hot girlfriend? I thought that was great. uh let's see, My Life in Times, I wrote for it. I wrote for that show. It was a very interesting idea. I think I wrote a couple scripts for that show. The basic notion was that we have the character in the modern day, and then we jump several decades into the future, and we're paralleling the modern day with his future life. It only lasted a few episodes. I don't think they even got to my episodes to film them. I've got them in a drawer somewhere, but there was one that I did that I was very, very pleased with, which I could adapt as a freestanding piece, where the character gets, I think he's in a collision or he gets harmed in some way, and he's in this strange netherworld between life and death, and it's like this very strange mansion that goes on forever, and death is coming, and it's as a force, and it was really creepy and really interesting. I should pull out that script and reread it. I think that might be part of the Rod Serling's After Twilight, if I want to do that. So Silent Running, I think, is a fun film, and I think Bruce Dern is a wonderful actor, and certainly it was written and directed extremely well. And Doug Trumbull was a unique talent who I wish had done more work. He got. He did Brainstorm, where Natalie Wood died sadly during the production, and of course he was the great visual effects genius on 2001: A Space Odyssey. Let's see. Um, Most overhyped sci-fi show or film? Jeez. Uh, well, I mean, that Lord of the Rings TV series on Amazon was hyped to a fairly well, and I watched only a few minutes of it. I didn't care for it. Um, all these Star Trek shows that are getting such big push from Paramount. I mean, I found Discovery unwatchable. I mean, I watched the first 2 or 3 seasons, but I couldn't stand it anymore. I got to a point where I couldn't stand it. And even Strange New Worlds, which has such potential, I think they're more often a miss than a hit. They keep undercutting the captain, making him seem laughable and weak. And and a lot of their casting choices are weird, and I don't know who some of these characters are, and they're similar, and I just think they aren't doing it the service they should. And I think part of it, sometimes some of the writers on some of these shows seem immature, and I don't know if that's the case or not. Maybe the writing staff is very young, or I don't know what it is, but the characters are often written as though they're children, and and I don't ever want to see another show where you have characters eating ice cream and talking about it as comfort food on a science fiction drama. Fuck that. Who cares about that? I don't care about that. I mean, if there's something dramatic going on, treat it seriously. Um, you got to have. See, here's the problem. You have to have something you want to say, something meaningful, something from your heart. Ray Bradbury used to say to me, "Look within, don't look without." And he didn't mean don't observe the world. Certainly, you have to observe the world to write about it. But he meant look inside for your passions, what you care about, what gets you angry. And just that's the mind. That's the mind that you can get the treasure from. Let's see. The Cowboys and Aliens. My friends Mark Fergus and Hawk Ostby wrote it, but it just didn't work. I didn't like it. Super 8. It's okay, but derivative. It's like there's nothing fresh in it. J.J. Abrams, I think, is a very, very good interpreter of things. I thought he did a very good job on the Star Trek movie he did in 2009, bringing that franchise alive again. But he's not an innovator in the way that Spielberg is, or George Lucas at his best. So it was okay. Put him on the map in a way in terms of features. Uh, yeah, thanks for saying it sounds like a cool script. Yeah, I'll pull it out and read it. Uh, it was very funny recently when I was going through my pile of animation scripts and premises and all that. I found that there were shows I wrote for that I had no idea that I'd written for. Michael Reeves and I outlined an entire Captain EO animated film back when that was an attraction with Michael Jackson at Disneyland. I had no memory that we'd been hired to do that, or that we there are tons of. I didn't know I'd written for Care Bears. It's like what? It's bizarre to me. So very funny. Yeah, I've heard that Prodigy is good. Uh, yeah, yeah, My Life in Times. Yeah, it lasted less than a season. I feel like a lot of the franchises are going Marvel quantity, not quality. Yes, exactly. Yes, it's true. It's true. There's a lack of craftsmanship to a lot of these shows, and films, and when they have a hit, they fasten on that as the formula and then repeat it over and over again until you're sick of it in all these different movies and so forth. It's very hard to see. The reality is, it's hard to make anything work. You really have to bring passion and craft and art and skill. You have to have people skills to bring a team together. It takes and money, money and imagination and being willing to learn, being willing to grow. I mean, there's just a ton of stuff. Let's see. Thoughts are 10 Cloverfield Lane. I thought it was a good film. I liked it. Dark, Alien Outpost. I don't think I've seen that. Annihilation. I liked. It was sort of like Roadside Picnic by the Strugatskys that was made into Stalker. Actually, there was a point at which Roland Emmerich was going to do. Oh no, that was a different project. I was brought aboard on Roadside Picnic to adapt that into a movie, and that version didn't get made. But the whole thing of a weird place where aliens might have left something, and it's weirding out the animals and the plants and the people who enter into that area. It's a very fun and very powerful idea. So I liked Annihilation. Arrival I thought was good, but okay, but minor, and Attraction. What's Attraction? Oh, I have to remember. I have to look that one up. I don't remember which one that was. Um, why did the Hulk listen to Tony Stark when he had Infinity Glove? No changes. He was a scientist. Climate change, nanomachines cure cancer. Thanks, Tony. Uh, yeah, I mean, I wrote for the Hulk when it was an animated series. I think the most interesting thing about the Hulk is probably the fact that originally in the comics he was gray, but they couldn't get the gray to be consistent in tone, so they changed him to green. So, which is pretty funny. Let's see. Has your book Greenlighting Yourself helped anyone produce their project? Yes, I think it has. That's a book I wrote last year called Greenlighting Yourself. It's how to do all the stuff I do, raise money, build your own studio, shoot your dream project. And yeah, I think people have come up to me and told me how much it's helped them. So I feel like a lot of sci-fi has got so grim, dark. It's often a bit depressing to watch. I'd rather watch His Girl Friday. Well, yeah, of course, yes. But again, with Space Command, I think we're hitting that middle ground that I want to hit, where you like the characters. There's fun, there's adventure, there's a point to it, but it's not grim. Certainly, we're not cynical, and so that's why we have a Kickstarter campaign going. Please pledge, please spread the word. Space Command, Great Solar War. Throw some money our way. Let's see. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Attraction to Invasion? Haven't seen it. Before We Vanish, haven't seen that. Beyond Skyline, it was okay. Bumblebee, I don't like the Transformer movies. It was okay. I like the actress from True Grit who starred in it. I got Kaylee, whatever her name, Haley Stanfield. I think she's good. She was good in Ender's Game too, but she's great in True Grit. I love that film. Captive State. I don't think I saw that. Mark, which of Harlan Ellison's stories would make a good film or TV series? Well, if they'd done, The Star Lost the way he intended, it would have been a good show, but it was hampered by many, many, many things. What else would have been good of Harlan's Boy and This Dog? They made a movie, but it could have been a TV series, certainly, but though dark. Harlan's a very dark writer, I'm looking for Kadak, which had Jewish aliens. I think that would be a lot of fun to see, made into a maybe an animated cartoon or something. It was a very fun story. Let's see. Um, Man in the High Castle show. Yeah, I like that a lot. I really like alternative histories where the Nazis won. I find them very interesting. The Man in the High Castle, the novel is terrific. The TV series was extremely good. My friend Frank, oh, what's his last name? He created that show, and he was very, 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 very talented. Let's see. Uh, Music teacher. I haven't seen that. Or are you saying, wait, are you talking about the Man in the High Castle? The rest of the Man in the High Castle was good. Let's see. Since you're doing your own projects right now, are you pretty happy just doing that, or do you want to get onto the show as well? The only show I think I'd like to be on would be one of the, like Strange New Worlds, to see if I could make it better. I love Star Trek, and it frustrates me because the current Star Trek, the new Star Trek, it's gorgeous looking, very talented actors for the most part, with a few reservations, and I just production value out, amazing. And yet it's like someone bought a Rolls Royce and they've painted it with polka dots. I don't know. But everything else I'm doing, all my projects, yeah, it's thrilling. Magic Time and Fugitive Space and Sweet Haven and Rod Serling's After Twilight and Dante's Station. I mean, these are all the shows we've got the scripts written. What we're doing, by the way, just to let everyone know, is we're building an ensemble company. So the actors in Space Command will also appear in the other projects. And, whether it's Doug Jones or Bob Picardo or, Gates McFadden is in Sweet Haven, and Veronica Cartwright. We've done the table read, but we haven't, we were slowed down by the pandemic. But okay, let's see. Let's see. Your show has great art design. Wait, I'm losing some of this. Blah, blah, blah. I read the whole series of novels for Annihilation and Area X and Ambergris, Alien, Mushroom Creature Invasion. My favorite modern author, Jeff Vandermeer. More steampunk, please. Love your show. I think, well, you're saying you love my show, I believe, rather than you love my shoe, because I'm actually wearing socks at the moment. But thank you either way. Yeah, I've read that trilogy. I liked it. Though the movie, of course, had stronger visuals and, well, just kind of interesting movie. Kind of wacky. Your show has great art design, spacesuits. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. That's deliberate. I mean, I really wanted to use that 1950s science fiction, particularly the book covers and magazine covers, that aesthetic. Ed M. Schwiller and Kelly Freas and all of that stuff. And I'm really glad I got to do it. Part of the reason we have such a strong aesthetic is because my degree is in painting, sculpture, and graphic arts. I've always had a very strong visual sense, and it shows in what we're doing and the people I work with and all of that. Uh, but also because I've acquired sets and costume pieces and props from so many science fiction films now, Cloverfield Paradox and Ender's Game and on and on, Outland, Aliens, Alien Covenant, Prometheus, Space Patrol, Tom Corbett Space Cadet, The Expanse. We just got a spacesuit from The Expanse. There's a commonality of design aesthetic in science fiction that fortunately has remained very connected. It's not all the same from show to show to show, but there is connective tissue, and so I find I can utilize a lot of it. Let's see. Speaking of Harlan, you'd love to see Spider Kiss. Sure, yes. Rockets look great. Sorry. Yeah, yeah, and of course, Spider Kiss's original title was Rockabilly. I have that original first edition. Um, that would be cool. I feel like Prodigy is the only one that has anything to say. The other shows are just a lot of jokes and and fluff, like cotton candy. Yes, I agree. What are your thoughts on Doomsday Book? Great. If you're talking about the novel by Connie Willis, that was terrific. Great piece of work. Edge of Tomorrow, I thought was terrific, and I'm glad that it's gained more traction over time, because when I saw it, I don't know why it failed other than bad promotion. Edge of Tomorrow sounds like a soap opera. When they released it on video, it was like Live, Die, Repeat, which is a lot better title. Let's see. Extinction. Which I don't think I liked that. Godzilla 2014. I'm not a big Godzilla fan. The only Godzilla films I loved, Greenland. I mentioned that before. The only Godzilla films I liked are Godzilla -1, which I thought was terrific. I haven't seen the black and white version, but I'm looking forward to. And the original Godzilla, not the Raymond Burr one, but the original Japanese version, I thought was terrific. Really, really strong. Let's see. I love the suits. Love the behind the scenes where Marcus talked about where they came from. Thanks. An actor who has passed that you wish you could have worked with, befriended. That's interesting. Wow. There's so many writers I would have liked to have befriended. Actors. Well, we were gonna have Rene Auberjonois play a role, but he passed before we could shoot him in Space Command. That would have been lovely. I just, so many of these actors, we're losing them. I mean, we lost our dear Mira Furlan, and Nichelle Nichols is gone now. I want to work again with George Takei if I can. James Hong was phenomenal to work with. In terms of actors that have passed, Patrick McGowan, he was probably a handful, but I would have liked to have known him. I think that would have been great. I love Ed Harris. I've met him once. The Abyss is one of my favorite movies, and I'm so glad they finally brought it out in 4K. Um, let's see, an actor who's I've been watching reruns of The Invaders. Any comments on that series? Yes, I liked that. It's so paranoid. It has a great cast, and I haven't watched all of it. I've watched when I was a kid. I watched a good deal of it. I thought the design of the weapons and the spaceships were terrific, and I thought Roy Finnis was great. And it was just like he never gets a leg up. He never, it's like they might have wanted to plan it where he actually starts making a dent in their invasion at least. I mean, because he's always being just totally fucked over. Let's see. What are your thoughts on Independence Day resurgence? I didn't like it at all. Man of Steel, I thought was okay. Monsters, I thought was good. Monsters Dark Continent, I thought was not as strong. Occupation, I can't remember that one. Do you rewatch things often? I have certain shows, films I put on when nothing is interesting. Yes. So, for instance, I'll watch Aliens fairly often. I'll watch the original Alien. I'll watch. I have a whole list of films that I love. The Russian Solaris, I love. Many films and TV shows. I'm a big fan of the original Space Patrol from 1950 to 55. Though I never grew up with it, I just think it's a lot of fun. And I met the cast, and I met the writer producer of the show, and many years later. Let's see. Do you remember the Twilight Zone episode, The Little People? Of course, of course. I remember all of them. So, but so yeah. So let's talk for maybe another 5 minutes or so, and then I'll peel off. But remember the Kickstarter campaign. Please go and pledge. Spread the word, because that's how we make stuff. And if you want to buy shares in Space Command or the Showrunners Network, just email me at markzicree@gmail.com. Happy to answer questions. Happy to send you the paperwork. It is. You can buy Space Command shares for $7,500. I can afford to get a haircut. Sometimes my hair is a little funny, but I'm glad I have hair. My God, thank God. But so please pledge and all of that. Let's see. Would love to see Pierce Anthony bio of a Space Tyrant or Stephen R. Donaldson Gap series of TV streaming. The problem is a lot of times when they take these really strong books, they make them into shitty shows. I mean, Philip Jose Farmer's Riverworld came and went. There's on. What you want is you want someone to really do it brilliantly, really do it well, have the right cast, have the right writers. It can be. There's so many. It takes so little to make something go totally wrong, and so it's very important to have the right team aboard. Let's see, and I like For All Mankind. That's another show I like very much. Let's see. What are your thoughts on Pacific Rim? I thought it was okay. Not one of my favorites. I'm not that much into giant Japanese monsters. Pacific Rim Uprising I thought was weaker. Proximity. See, a lot of these titles kind of blur together. I don't remember which one was Proximity. I don't think I've seen Raqqa. I don't think I've seen Revolta. Shanghai Fortress I didn't see. So Tales from the Dark Side. I think my friend Michael Reeves wrote some of those. They were kind of cheesy. I never really watched much of it. I think I might have watched the one that Michael wrote. There's a picture of him with this little monster from being on the set. I have a writer group that meets occasionally. Do you ever let folks like us sit in to listen to you guys talk about stuff? Yes. We meet every Thursday at 6:30 Pacific time on Zoom and in person at Denny's in Northern Hollywood. If you wanted to be a fly on the wall, just email me and I can send you a link, and you can be part of it. It's called The Table, and there's a documentary on it that you can actually rent on all these different platforms. They followed us around for a year, and it's a lot of fun. We have thousands of members around the world. Hi, Odie. Good to see you. Good to see you. And again, throw money our way. I mean, even if it's a buck or two, every little bit helps, and it all goes to Space Command. It's funny because it's like there are many times where I'll want to get something for Space Command and I just can't afford it. It's like some big space prop or something. And every now and then I'll find something that I want to buy, and Elaine will not let me buy it. Like, for instance, I was at the swap meet a few weeks ago, and a guy was selling a 10-foot tall fountain that spouted water and flame. And I thought, well, I'm going to use that. I'll find a use for that. And she said, no, that's not going home with you. So, and so that's pretty funny. And let's see, the one Holy Grail that you want to do with it but haven't yet. The one that got away that I really regret is I'm a huge fan of The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. It's one of my favorite books. And they've tried over many years to make a good version of that. They've never succeeded. And I learned that there were 22 Mars stories that Ray wrote that followed the same structure of the Martian Chronicles, but were not in the Martian Chronicles. So I proposed an 8-hour miniseries called Ray Bradbury's Lost Mars. And the idea was that I would write it. My friend Michael Ninkin, who was one of the great directors on Battlestar Galactica, would direct it, and we'd both produce it. And Ray gave me the rights to for a year for free to take this out, and I outlined it, and no one was interested. No one would buy it. And Ian McCaig was going to be a designer on it. It was going to be spectacular. And that one got away. But what it led to was the complete Martian Chronicles, because ultimately Ray's publisher heard my idea, and they decided to do a book that would include the Martian Chronicles and all of the other stories in his Mars series and the unpublished Martian stories. So I got to write an introduction to that book, and so at least it didn't go to nothing. But I would have loved to have made that, and I don't think it'll ever happen now. Let's see. Yes, Michael did write for Monsters. That's right. Just finish watching Redemption again. Worth repeating at least 4 times a year. Thank you. Wait till you see Forgiveness. We shot all of it now. It's in post-production. We're just doing the color correction and visual effects and all that stuff, music and sound mix. It is an amazing 2 hours. It follows right on the heel of Redemption. It's a very different story. It's about, can people change? Can you forgive people who have wronged you? Is it possible to grow and change? Is it possible to change the course of your life significantly? It's got an amazing cast. It's got Nichelle Nichols and Ferran Tahir, who played the starship captain in JJ's Star Trek movie, the one who gets skewered by the Romulan. And wait till you see it. It's going to be, I think you'll really, really love it. And of course, Great Solar War, which we're starting to shoot now, is a big story. And again, I think you'll really love it. How is Elaine and her Voiceless Roar project? Thank you for asking, Mark. We started rolling camera on that. We've shot 3 days of it. We're shooting 2 more days at the top of August. And we're shooting 4 more days of Great Solar War in August as well. And people can come on the set. They can be in the show. They can play Space Command officers. Just go to our Kickstarter campaign. It's all there. But we're shooting August 27th on the 2-story spaceship command deck. I want to do a command deck like Galactica, and that's what we're doing. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, amazing. Well, another project that I was hired to develop was the George Nuri, the Coast to Coast drama series. George, I had a deal with 20th Century Fox and also with Universal, and I teamed with my friend David Simpkins, who was on Warehouse 13, and it basically would have been a drama along the lines of the X-Files, but with a character like George Nuri, the host of Coast to Coast, as the main character, but in a drama setting. And we did, I think, 3 pilot outlines for that, and it never got made. And that's, again, a shame, because and this is part of what drove me to reaching out to my audience, because now if I wanted to do that, I could. But everything, it's funny, I asked George who he would like to play him, and he said John Hamm. So you just put him in a mustache and you're good to go. But the problem, of course, is right now it's a matter of time and energy and money. The more money I can raise, the more people who buy shares in Space Command for $7,500 each, or shares in the Showrunners Network for $105,000 per share, the faster this all goes. Because again, I'm not stepping back from quality. I'm not stepping back from ambition, and so money is the machine that makes it all go. Let's see. What are your thoughts on? Let's see. I thoroughly enjoyed the show as they aired. Definitely. What are your thoughts on Shin Godzilla? Haven't seen it. Skylines. Haven't seen it. Spectral, I think it was okay. Sputnik, I liked very much. Russian film. Taking Earth, I didn't see. Fifth Wave was okay. So there we go. How many more Space Command projects do you have in mind? It's a 12-hour season. So essentially, the first that we're doing a prequel that's made up of the radio play and the graphic novel. It has our entire cast, including Mira Furlan and Bill Mumy and Robert Picardo and Mike Harney and Ethan McDowell, everybody. And we're combining them into an animated storyboard called an animatic. It's almost like an animated cartoon. That's almost done. So that'll be in the box set. And so there's that. That's the prequel. It's called United Planet. The first 2-hour episode is called Redemption. During the pandemic, we did a bonus 2-hour episode called Ripple Effect. We then did Forgiveness, which is the one that connects up immediately after Redemption. Then we jumped 20 years in the chronology to Great Solar War. Jack Kemmer is now Fleet Commander. He's got a 23-year-old son. And then after that is Empire, which jumps a number of years and has Armin Shimmerman and Christina Moses in it. And then my Alexa's talking for some God knows reason. And then after that is Mousetrap, which finishes out the season. That's the 12 hours of the show. And so beyond that, that's as far as I've plotted it, as far as it goes for now. If we sell the entire season and if it takes off, then I'd be happy to continue. Either way, I'm going to be working with my actors, with Bob Picardo and Ethan McDowell and Aaron Gaffey and Bill Mumy and Veronica Cartwright's attached to Sweet Haven and so on and so forth. I mean, amazing cast. Barbara Bain. I love all of these people, and it's an honor to work with them. And there's all these people waiting in the wing who want to be in Space Command, like Tim Russ and it's Rock Lofton and on and on and on. Gigi Edgley and so forth. So just got to write roles for them. So let's see. Oh, hold on a sec. Someone's calling me. I will do that. And then I will get back to you guys. Hang on. You went off my screen, but I know you're still there. There we go. Let's see. What does it say? How many more spaces there? Will you be filming in October? I'm sure we will be. So, OD, so let's keep in contact on that. What happened to the original Battlestar Galactica movie? It was cut so much for theatrical release versus the TV cut. Do you have thoughts on that as a writer? Well, you never want something to be cut up. You want the creators to have power over it. I want to see the complete version. I mean, and thank God we have director's cuts now, because again, so many films were eviscerated. Star Trek: The Motion Picture, the director's cut is so much better than the original version that was released theatrically. Same with The Abyss, so on and so forth. So, let's see the lizard anyway. Return to robots. How's the memoir about your mother going? It's in print. If you go on Amazon, you can buy it. It's called Love Gloria. So very excited about it. I'm very thrilled to have it in print. What are your thoughts on The Blackout? I don't think I've seen that. Darkest Hour, it was okay. Predator, they all blur. The Recall, didn't see it. Tick, 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 I didn't see it. Transformers: Age of Extinction, I'm done with Transformers movies. Will Space Command end series lead to the 90 years in the future part? The end of the first season, in the first year, we jump back and forth over a 200-year time span, and so that's what we're in, and we follow, I think, 5 generations of 4 families, something like that. So it's really fun. Don't forget to call Sue Allroom Nick to add him to your group. I'll remember that. So, well, great. I'm gonna bug out now, but I've really enjoyed talking to all of you. It's been super fun. We'll be doing these live streams every Wednesday at 5 p.m. So tell your friends and think of other questions you want to ask me, because I'm happy to answer them. It's always fun. And subscribe to Mr. Sci-Fi if you haven't done so. I just did a video about my wall behind me, telling all the stories about all those wonderful people I've known. Let's see. What's my favorite part about Man of Steel? Just the way he looks. I mean, that amazing physique. I like that a lot. I didn't like the fact that he kills someone deliberately. That wasn't Superman to me. But but I love Superman. It's a great character and an enduring character. Let's see. Nice, great. Yeah, thanks so much to all of you. Remember to pledge to the Kickstarter campaign. The fun. I will finish with this. I love having this relationship with my audience. I've always thought of myself as a fan, just like all of you, and I don't see it as anything other than, hey, we're all making something together that we can be proud of, that can entertain us. And so you're as much part of all of this as I am, and I'm very, very, very grateful to know all of you. So thanks so much, and we'll talk again real soon. Bye, guys.